we lapse it,
I got
we
you.
take it back in the general fund.
Okay.
Now, getting back to the budget freeze, though, 330 million of that was the ability to draw down federal education jobs money and essentially swap for state education funds. And that's what a large portion of that is.
Okay, and there were some questions on other employees of the Commonwealth and whether they get pay increases or not next year. Let's exclude the politicians and the judges. There are other non-represented employees that it's already been determined that there's a wage freeze for 2011-12.
The budget does not assume any wage or salary increases for 2011-12.
Okay. And I assume if there are any wage increases, salary increases, like legislatures and judiciaries, there has to be adjustment somewhere else in the budget.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Does the Commonwealth have any questions for the witness?
No further questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break for lunch. We will come back here at 1 o'clock. All right, good afternoon. Is the Commonwealth prepared to present its next witness?
Yes, the Commonwealth calls Michael Nadal once again, this time to provide a compensation analysis.
Okay, Mr. Nadal, when you're ready.
Thank you. Turning to slide 2 of the presentation booklet, I will be covering in general terms 3 different topic areas. First, I'll provide an overview of the compensation or the major elements of the compensation package received by the bargaining unit, and will present that in the context of the general labor market in Pennsylvania from which this bargaining unit is recruited. Next, I'll turn to a set of specific state corrections, comparison employers, similar to the group presented in earlier hearings by the union's economic witness, but with some additional points of reference and detail. And then after that snapshot comparison, I'll present some information about compensation trends, wage increases relative to consumer prices and relative to some of the comparison employers. So turning next to slide 3, just as a further summary of what I'll be presenting and what our findings encompass. Relative to the labor market generally, we found that bargaining unit members of this group receive strong wages and benefits with high recruitment and retention levels. In comparison with other similar workers in state corrections, we found that in context of different economic and fiscal parameters, Pennsylvania's pay is competitive with contiguous states, other large population states, and states where the Commonwealth sends a significant number of inmates. And then in terms of the compensation trends, over time, wage increases for the bargaining unit have outpaced historical growth in consumer prices. And during the recent period that I spoke about earlier this morning of states struggling with the aftermath of the recession, Pennsylvania having reached its current terms with this bargaining unit, really just as the recession was beginning to onset as part of a bargaining cycle that even preceded the technical start of the recession, the Commonwealth's wage increases over the last several years have been better than what's been seen in a number of other places. So turning to slide 5, the bargaining unit as a whole includes a range of non-supervisory titles, over 10,000 members in all, but more than 3/4 of those individuals are within the correction officer series as either trainees, correction officer 1s, or journal level workers in the custody and supervision of inmates, or correction officer 2-level employees, functionally sergeants who are performing lead or specialized work. Turning to slide 6, The basic progression into which new hires would enter is shown here. There are step increments onto which longevity increments are layered after 5 years of completed service. Correction officer base pay, depending on the institution, begins at a trainee level between $32,903 and $34,593, rises up to a maximum for a CO1 of $66,243 for those who serve through 28 completed years of service, and for those bargaining unit members who are promoted into the sergeant class, there's a somewhat higher earnings opportunity. Turning to slide 7, there are additional career opportunities that exist beyond the bargaining unit for the members of this bargaining unit. And we show here how a number of the Commonwealth's corrections officers are able to further advance competitively to the CO3, 4, and 5 titles. And if you look at those Commonwealth employees who are in that correctional officer series and have 20 or more years of service, more than a quarter have advanced to those higher levels of compensation to those supervisory ranks. And that's just reflective of the overall career opportunity that this position and series entails over and above the maximums within the bargaining unit per se. Turning to slide 8, in addition to base pay and longevity, there are overtime earning opportunities that average over $4,400 in calendar 2010. There are shift differential opportunities which average just under $1,000 in that same calendar year. And there's a uniform allowance over and above the uniforms provided to the bargaining unit members for cleaning and maintenance of $450 per year. In total, corrections officers had median gross earnings in calendar 2010 of over $50,000, averaged over $54,000, combining those differentials and overtime with the base pay, and the bargaining unit as a whole averaged just a little bit higher. Turning to slide 9, put that compensation in the context of the broader Pennsylvania labor market. We compared to the median gross earnings for Commonwealth residents, again in the general population, age 25 and older, for the most recent year in which data was available. And across all of the Commonwealth, those median earnings were just over $33,000 for that year, relative to the $51,551 level for corrections officers. If you look at those Pennsylvania residents with equivalent educational attainment to that required to enter a career in state corrections, the opportunity wage is much lower at just over $27,000 per year. While these are challenging jobs and special jobs, and I'm not suggesting that they should be paid just at the average of what would otherwise be available for Pennsylvania high school graduates, I would note that from a recruitment perspective, these are good wages for the labor market from which the Commonwealth would seek to draw people into this career. And that's further reflected on slide 10, which illustrates the median earnings for each of the different major facilities operated by the Department of Corrections relative to the median earnings for residents age 25 or older in each of those counties in the general labor market. We've also shown the unemployment rates in each of those counties. And in many of those areas of the state where these facilities are located, the overall wages in the general labor market are below those for the Commonwealth overall. And in that context, in those communities, these are opportunities that are even more attractive in terms of the basic wage earning opportunities. Turning next to slide 11, we've summarized some of the basic features of the health and welfare benefits package and program available to the bargaining unit members. It's my understanding that there'll be a much more detailed set of testimony on this topic at a subsequent hearing, but just to give a sense of the overall package, there are options for full family coverage with premium cost sharing and co-pays for office visits and prescriptions that are generally below the labor market norms. In this table, we reference what is available in general private industry according to recent Bureau of Labor Statistics surveys and surveys by the Kaiser Family Foundation. And by any of those metrics, again, the Commonwealth's current premium contributions and out-of-pocket co-pays for prescription drugs and the like are below the general norms. Turning to slide 12, we also just touch upon the availability of a defined benefit pension program, post-retirement medical coverage for individuals and their dependents, both of which are benefits increasingly less common in the general labor market and that add to the attractiveness of the total compensation package for this group in the overall labor market. And you see all of that reflected in slide 13 in the Commonwealth's market experience. As of May 2011, there are over 11,000 candidates on the statewide waiting list to become corrections officers. Of course, those individuals would need to pass physicals and some other hurdles before ultimately receiving employment, but there in the aggregate are nonetheless many more applicants for every available opening. And despite the challenges of the job, the quit rate in terms of voluntary separations has been below 2%, even below 1.5% for each of the most recent calendar years, well below norms that you would find in the general labor market. Further indication that from that perspective, the compensation package is serving to attract and retain a quality workforce. Finally, on slide 14, we've just summarized some of the costs associated with this package for the Commonwealth, both in terms of corrections officers in the journey level CO1 title and for the bargaining unit as a whole. You see the same total cash compensation of around $55,000 for each of those cohorts on average, and the additional costs associated with the health care, retiree health, pension program, Social Security that's afforded in addition to the defined benefit pension and several other miscellaneous benefits, adds not quite another 50% to the total cost of the package for an overall employment cost to the Commonwealth averaging just above $80,000 a year. Within that general context, I'll turn next to several comparisons of how this compensation looks relative to other state corrections employees, and just a note on slide 16 about who we are comparing to. We did survey all of the same state corrections officer employers that were previously presented by the union's economic witness, Amy McCarthy, and in addition have added several further points of reference to provide a little broader context to our analysis. She presented a group of states that she identified as being large states in the northeast quadrant of the United